We have Patrick Brunelle from Project Pat. He was actually part of the Brilliant Directories team not too long ago, just a few short years ago. He's a dear friend, and he's done amazing things for the BD community and BD users, and he continues that journey with with Project Pat. And actually, Patrick was with us for webinar number 1 back in 2017. And we're lucky to be joined by him today. He's got a special presentation about defining your offering and how to attract more members. So, Patrick, I just unmuted your mic there. I want to thank you for joining us as a guest here today.
Hey, Jason, it's a pleasure to be here. Pretty amazing to sit in on one of these and see all those amazing updates that you guys are working on, especially that quick member sign up. That's pretty phenomenal update that you're releasing. I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Well, I know we connected last week, and you've been doing some really amazing things at Project Pat. And I know I was kind of yanking on your ear if we can get you in on one of these webinars. I know you're really busy and stuff. And after we chatted, everyone, Pat thought with a short amount of time on this webinar, one of the most important things we could share with the community is kind of how to define your offering and your brand story almost, and some actionable steps that everyone could take today to adjust things on their website and the trajectory that they're going with their project. So, Pat, if it's okay with you, I'd like to pass it over to you, and you could take it from there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of the things that we do at Project Pat are in fact working with startups. A lot of times we get going at the very beginning of a journey, right? And somebody has an original idea, they come to us and they share it. And over the years, we're really, really fortunate to work with some pretty amazing people and some amazing projects. And every time you work on a new project, you learn new things, and you learn along with your clients. And I did want to share some of those lessons that we've learned along the years. I remember even when I was at Brilliant Directories, we used to do basic core setups, and the strategies just evolve with time. So hopefully I'll be able to share some good insights with everybody on the call today that can help make a difference.
Thank you, Pat. Well, let's dive right into it here. Tell us about some of the important things when defining your offering.
All right, so the first one, we've talked about it before. I'm going to go a little deeper. I know we have some people that are new to these webinars, but also I've heard some names that have been there from the beginning. So I will add some layers to this, so we go a little bit deeper with the strategy. But it's identifying a product that your members want to pay to solve. We always talk about your website, your platform needs to be solving a problem. And a lot of times that requires figuring out who your personas are, identifying the people that are going to be paying you or the people that are going to be using your website, sitting down and really writing down a detailed description of who that persona is. How old are they? What kind of websites do they visit? What kind of products do they buy? And most importantly, what kind of problems are they encountering that you can help them solve? And basically going through that process, usually you do a huge brainstorm. Ideally, you have 1 or 2 people that you can bounce ideas off of. But the goal of it at the end of the day is that you would like to get to a point where you can come up with an idea or a solution to a problem you think that they'd be willing to engage with you on. And once you think you have that idea, then of course, you can go ahead and bounce that idea off 2 or 3 people that are similar to that persona description, so similar to the potential customer that you're going after, and engage their interest before you go too far down into your project. And interestingly enough, I think the number one thing that we encounter when we start working on a new project is the idea. The original idea is oftentimes the final piece of the equation, which is I want to launch a full-fledged directory where we will connect group A with group B. So group A will come to find group B, but in reality, oftentimes that becomes the final phase of a directory project. A lot of times, in order to go into the market and to start a new project, you can have a much simpler approach than launching a directory, because if you go in and what you are solving is a search experience. So let's say I go into a competitive industry where there's a lot of competition. Let's say maybe an events directory or a coupon directory where there is some competition. Perhaps at that point, if what you're saying is people are going to be able to come to my website to find events, if you're going to ask that persona, hey, is there a need for you to add events on a directory? Is that something that is getting in the way of your business and something that you would pay to be able to do? It's perhaps they would say yes to that, but also it's possible they would say no, because that's something that eventually with time is something that you can start adding value to. But oftentimes you can have a much simpler solution to enter a market. So I'll give you a concrete example. The number one strategy that we find to be effective when you're launching a new directory, because it's an amazing model to do, you're building memberships. The initial strategy is coming up with a simple product and getting a simple website up and running and getting them to create memberships in order to perhaps get information. So it could be as simple as a webinar that teaches them how to solve a problem, a webinar that teaches them how to get clients, or perhaps it's a checklist that teaches them 20 tips on how to launch a successful membership website. And basically, the key to launching is momentum, especially if you're doing a startup. You want to get people registering to your website. You want to get excited. You want to see that there's some level of engagement. And by identifying a solution and focusing really before you get started, what is one thing that we're offering on this website that people will give us an email for, and we can nurture them, we can build relationships, we can talk to them, we can call them, we can make connections. But it starts with a much simpler model than trying to launch the full-fledged directory, because if I am launching a directory to find attorneys, let's say, you go to the home page, I say find attorneys, and they click search and there are no attorneys in my directory, then we all run into that age-old question, right? The chicken or the egg. Are you going to get the attorneys first or the people looking for the attorneys? And by focusing on solving an actual problem that you can give a solution to out of the gates, you can start building one of those two lists.
So does this happen through surveying, or how would you recommend getting in touch, after you've, created your persona or who your demographic would be? What are like two ways to find out where they are online, and how do you get them to take a survey from a company that may or may not have existed for a long time thus far? What kind of
Yeah,
questions are we asking them?
that's a great question. Oftentimes, when you're launching a directory, oftentimes there's some personal relationship, some familiarity with the industry. So if I'm launching an attorney directory, I probably know an attorney. If I'm launching a local directory, I'm probably in that locality. I know there's a chance that you mightn't be launching a local directory in a place that you're not in, but there's a good chance that you are. So your personal network is absolutely what you want to lean on at the beginning stages, because they're the ones that should be able to give you more time on the phone. It is difficult to cold call a business that has never heard of you, but it is possible. But I always recommend, who do you know in your personal network that is similar to your persona, right? You can go into social media groups. You see how active everybody is in the Brilliant Directory Strategy group. That's an amazing community. So regardless of the industry you're going in, you could just leave a comment and say, I'm working on a project and I'd love to be able to speak to one or two attorneys. If you can give me your time, I would really appreciate it. I'd love to connect 15 minutes. I just want to see if this idea is viable. And perhaps if you don't have anybody in your personal network, you can get them that way as well. But the whole point of sitting down and speaking with them is either A, you have an idea that you think you're solving a problem for them, or B, you're trying to extract the problem from them. So if you don't have an idea in your head and you don't know, well, I don't know what I can offer them out of the gates, then that's the whole point of getting to speak to your persona. If I'm trying to get attorneys to the website, I'm going to ask them questions like, are you currently on any other websites? What do you like most about being a member of those websites? What do you like least about being a member on those websites? Are you having trouble getting customers? Are you advertising online? Why are you not advertising online? And asking those types of questions, you'll extract information that kind of help you figure out solutions that you can hopefully help solve. And my favorite thing is to do it via knowledge, right? A webinar, an article, a downloadable guide, a thing, basically assets that are fairly simple to create.
I really like that. It's like, what you just said is, I may not have the exact idea right now, but I know I want to work on something, and I know that I have knowledge within an industry, but I don't know yet what that industry would need, but I'm sure I could, invent it for them, right? That's what entrepreneurs do. They invent things. So part of the process of wanting to start a project is kind of like this discovery phase of,
Mm-hmm.
okay, where can we take this thing? And I guess that makes a lot of sense. So all right,
And
so
and and the next point, Jason, and you're right, you could invent it. And I'm sure a lot of people are listening to that and saying, wow, that sounds like a lot of work, and I have to come up with the idea myself. But if we go to the next slide, the next tip could maybe help you get an idea without having to invent it, right? There is an incredible amount of success out there that's already been created. We're inundated all day long on social media, online, in magazines. We're being sold products and services. And there's a good chance when something catches your eye, when you see an ad on Facebook or a webinar that you're interested in, or a downloadable asset, whenever somebody gets you to give them their email, your email. So if you can get me to give you your email, I need to stop. I'm an entrepreneur now. I own a directory. I'm trying to get members to join. I need to turn my attention on and start analyzing. Wow, I just signed up for this. Wow, I just gave my email for that. Wow, I just downloaded that. Take a step back, analyze and see what was it that they offered you? How did they present it to you? How did they get their interest with all of the noise that's going out there? What was it that they did that you can piggyback off of? What can you emulate from them? What can you, the core idea is there. Maybe you don't need to have the exact product that they're selling or they're offering, but the way in which they promoted it is perhaps something that you can take off of them. So you definitely paying attention and looking at other successful companies, maybe not exact competitors, but similar industries. If there's a site for veterinarians and you have a lawyer directory, maybe you can learn something from a veterinarian directory. You can go dip your feet in different pools and see what the water's like, and see if you can borrow an idea here or there.
gotcha. So kind of assess what's going on in the industry around you. Maybe don't recreate the wheel, and maybe find even a niche within a niche that may be underserved, that has some volume. Is it some things that people can do with this as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just today, for example, on a call, the idea was somebody had a lot of relationships in the industry, and particularly vendors and suppliers, and they were launching a directory as always, right? And basically we discovered you have these relationships developed, you've developed them over the years. What if, because when you're in this specific niche, they sell products and their suppliers, and you usually have to sit through a presentation, and they sell expensive equipment. And I said, what if you got them to record a video with you? You just did a Zoom call, you recorded it, and the asset is that people can register on your website and they can have access to these supplier videos without having to sit through a sales presentation, and they can stay up to date on great opportunities for them to sell those products or services, and in exchange for an email. And then of course those vendors and suppliers are going to be able to promote their products to a bigger base, right? Which is good for them at the end of the day. So that's just one example where he's going to leverage his relationships, which is something he has and he knows the members he's trying to recruit would appreciate, because they're being sold stuff all the time. They would appreciate having that quick access.
Got you. So in that scenario, and just to tie this back, I just want to go back to the first slide here, defining your offering to attract more members. So when we're talking about emulating a proven strategy, you're talking about a strategy for bringing people into what we call the top funnel, right? They come into
Mm-hmm.
their first engagement with you. Your first offering to them, maybe it's like we talk about this a lot, some type of a lead magnet or access to some privileged or premium information for in exchange for an email address. Is that what we're kind of talking about here
Yes,
with
absolutely,
emulating a proven strategy?
absolutely. I mean, it could be, you can apply it to any strategy, but yes, definitely. When we get started, we focus on top of funnel, which is, can we get an email? We find it to be a challenge at times to get them to become full-fledged paid members when there are no other members on a directory. So we're always focused around what can we do to get an email and to nurture that email and to have offerings on the back end of that and to try different things out.
Gotcha. Okay, great. And I think that ties right back into your pillar number 3 here about creating content or assets that convert.
Correct. And I think it's really important to take a step back sometimes and to look at your homepage or to look at the landing page where somebody's going to be joining and signing up, and to ask yourself, if somebody in a quick glance understand what it is that I'm trying to solve for? Can they understand what it is that we're offering? And it's very possible that what it is you're offering is very clear, right? Perhaps what you're offering is an ability to connect with attorneys. It's very clear that's what your site is. But if that's the case and I do a search and there aren't any attorneys in the search results, in terms of a brand promise and my first experience with the brand, I'm left to be a little bit disappointed. So sometimes when we're launching a directory, we get excited. We're like, hey, search for lawyers, but that messaging of what your site's about is a little bit unclear, right? So when we're talking about a brand story, when we're talking about defining a product, we're talking about taking the visitor that comes to your website and to help them understand what your website's about. Who's it for? Is it for them? What are you addressing? You need to tell them a little bit of a story so that they can quickly identify, this website is for me. I know this is for me. I am X. This is for me. I am X and I'm looking for Y. This is a perfect fit. And it needs to be simple messaging, especially when you're getting started. It can't be a book. It can't be a bunch of paragraphs. It can't be a super long page. You want to have simple messaging that you can show a friend and say, hey, do you know what my website's about, what I'm trying to do here? And if they can't tell you what you're trying to do, then probably your messaging needs a little bit of massaging. And I promise you, it's an exercise that's fun to do, and it's worth keep refining it. You should never stop with the messaging. Jason, you should know, right? How many times did we rework on the website? When you own a website, you never stop improving your messaging because it's something that you always find a way to explain it better. So it's something that's always ever evolving. But I highly recommend doing a self audit and reading your homepage and then sharing it with a friend and seeing if they can figure out what it is you're trying to do. And it's basically a pass or fail grade based on what they're going to tell you in return. And again, there's no feelings in business, right? It's exciting. Let's say you asked a friend and they can't figure out what it is you're trying to do and they can't explain it back to you, then that's an opportunity for you to get better. It's exciting to discover those things because you're like, okay, wow, I'll make this even better than it is right now. And at the end of the day, your overall product and brand story will benefit.
I really believe in what you're saying there. When Matthew Brooks and I, the co-founder here at Brilliant Directories, when we were launching our own directories, 9, 10 years ago, one of the stress tests I would do is I'd actually go to people in different age ranges. I'd go to people of different generations. I would just ask. Obviously, I knew who they were, family and friends and things like that. I'd ask them. They don't know anything about the industry that the directory was servicing, but I asked them to look at the homepage and answer me three things. What does this website do, and what is it for? Why would someone join this site, and where would someone go to sign up?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want them? They know nothing about the industry, but obviously the website should explain why the people in that industry should sign up. So I think listing benefits and emotional benefits, things that make their lives or their businesses emotionally better and relieve pain, are often overlooked in messaging on websites. So, sharing your site with friends and family of different generations too, so you can see across the gamut if your website is resonating, the messaging is resonating with people of different demographics. That's a good stress test to know that you have the right messaging on your site in the first place. So.
That third question that you just asked is one that I hear so few people bring up, but where do I sign up? That is so important to have clear on your website. And how do I sign up? Is it easy for them to understand? And oftentimes, what you want to do when you're doing that is you kind of want to paint a picture of what the experience is going to be like. You'll notice now that I mention it, as you look at sales pages, one of the number one things you're going to see on effective sales pages is they have a 1, 2, 3, and they show you these are the 3 steps. First, you sign up, then you do this, then you get that. Or first you pay, and then you do this, and then you get that. They always paint a picture of what happens after you sign up, because people want to understand, okay, this is interesting, I'm not sure how this works. And if you're making the end users figure it out on their own, right? They got to figure out that they got to go sign up, and then they got to figure out that by signing up, they'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. It's not always that simple, because when you're in your own universe, you know how everything works, and the end user may not know it like you do. If they're not comfortable with the experience like you are, they're probably going to leave the website. So not only make it easy to find where you go to sign up, but also, do you understand how the sign up process works? Is that a clear experience for you? And hopefully the answer would be yes to that.
Yeah, for people checking out your website, the website is a brochure. So you need to ask yourself, is this a vacation that potential members will want to take?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Pretty much. Pretty much. All right, get early feedback. I love this one. So we just talked about concepts, and I'm going to share one of my favorite hacks, and you're probably not going to hear a lot of people give this advice, but I don't care, because I like this advice. And it's not for everyone, I'll admit it, but I think if you're on a tight budget, if you're a one-man or one-woman show, if you don't have a lot of time and a lot of money to waste, I always say, why build an advanced asset from start to finish? And let me explain. Let's say I have an idea that I'm going to make a virtual course that is going to teach somebody how to launch a brick and mortar shoe store. And I know how to do it, and you're going to make a killing, and I'm going to build a virtual course. I've asked a couple people, they told me yes, they would like to take that course, and I go get the camera equipment, get the lighting, I hire a team, I do a bunch of takes, we do a bunch of editings, we get the hosting platform. You know where I'm going, all of the different steps of setting it up. Then I go live, I'm super excited. People say they're gonna want this. I've worked on it for 3 months. I start putting ads on there, and it's not converting like I wanted it to, and it's not selling like I wanted it to. The emotional and financial deflation of that decision is sometimes it stops your business. Sometimes that mistake is what makes you stop trying, because it was so disappointing to have that loss. The reality is, any successful entrepreneur will say the key to success is failing. Every time you fail, you're one step closer to your success. So that failure was needed for you to discover your success. But if you allow that failure to be so big that it wipes out your bank account, then that might not have been a good failure. So this lesson, and it's a little bit of a different way to look at things, is, did you know that I could have made a landing page selling that product and run ads to it, spend $20 or $30 and tell the public, hey, all of these things are here. You can either pre-register for the course, right? Because I have this course, it's going to have all of this amazing stuff. It's got the world inside of it, right? It's going to solve all these problems, and see if people start registering for this offering that I'm offering. Or I could even pretend that it's available and have a very low grade version of that. Do a single Zoom call recording, give the course on the fly with no assets, no production, and get early feedback on my idea. So when you have an idea, I think maybe someone will like this. What is the quickest way you can get a simple version of your idea out there? And I know so many people on this webinar, because it's very common, we are perfectionists. We have pride in our brand. We want the product to represent us. Everything we do needs to be exactly the way that we have it in our minds. Just know that yes, you can do that, and I understand in some cases, depending on the brand, you don't have much of a choice. But if you're on your own, if you have a small team and a small budget, I think it's a much better approach to be very responsible with your finances and time, and get a minimal viable product out there and test that brand story, test that product, and get early feedback from users and get early feedback from data, and see if you're on the right path or not. And as soon as you get confirmation and the data and the activity, because everybody will tell you your idea is great. Everybody says, hey, I asked a bunch of people and they all said yes. Everybody does that. But when you say, give me $20 and sign up, they don't do it. It's crazy. So don't allow that to happen, and invest in a huge resource.
I think one of the most important things to do, one, that point there, don't wait until the entire masterpiece is complete. The moment you have your idea, the first thing you need to do, and again, if you're on a bootstrap budget or you don't have too much time and money to invest, is you need to get a landing page, one page online that has just a brief synopsis of the upcoming solution that's coming, and to register their email address if they're interested in learning when this thing is going to come alive. There's tons of free landing page tools. Build there. GoDaddy has it built in. There's free solutions there. It doesn't matter what it is, and you just need to get that link to people that you're thinking about might be interested, and see if people are registering their email address based on the messaging you've put on your site. That's probably a very simple way to get early feedback on a shoestring budget. Put it out in the universe before, what do you call it? The advanced asset, Pat? That's the
Yeah,
one
the
where you
advanced
go,
asset.
that's where
Yes.
that's the one you go all in on, because you're going to go mass marketing with it. Another thing about getting early feedback, and don't wait for the masterpiece. We hear it all the time. If you don't do it on your first impression, you lose them forever, or whatever that's saying. I can't launch until it's perfect, because if it's not perfect, then they're never going to come back, or this and that. One, that's not true. Number two is, well, you don't have to email your entire list all at once, or whoever you're targeting. That's why restaurants and whatnot do soft launches, to get that early user feedback. Hotels do soft launches, restaurants do soft launches, online businesses can do soft launches as well, where you get that minimal viable product. The key is your messaging resonating with people. I have a buddy that wanted to launch an app. It's like an Uber for an on-demand service for a specific industry. And these guys, that's their idea. They went all in, 50, 60 grand into app development, and they're working on it now, and they have yet to just put a landing page to see if people they're interested in the idea. But I recommended to him, why aren't you acquiring subscribers while you're building? Let them know it's coming soon. Build it so you can email people and get feedback on this and that, or create some kind of a buzz as you're building it. That didn't happen. So right now they're just building blindly. They're just going off of what they think is good, and that's the advanced asset they're going right off the bat with. And if you have experience and you're 100% sure, and you have other indicators that tell you to go that route, it's fine. But in my opinion, that the markets are feeble, and people change their minds, and trends change, and new technologies and solutions come out. So getting that early feedback, you might want to change your initial idea and pivot to
Mhm.
something else. So get those landing pages online for other ideas you have and see if you can strum up some interest with some basic messaging. And then you can lean in more to those ideas. And you can do that with multiple. That way you can have multiple ideas going on at once and see which one sticks or seems more favorable to invest more time and energy into. And we did have this picture here is actually from an article that we did. I just want to share it from the BD blog before we get on to the next slide. This is a video segment on exactly how to get early user feedback. I know we talked about it here, but this is kind of a step-by-step guide on how to do a beta launch on a shoestring budget. All right, Pat, and you have a gift for everyone here.
I do. So I talked about, going and seeing people that are doing it, don't reinvent the wheel, learn other strategies. And basically what I've done is we've been, like I said, very privileged to work on a lot of exciting projects. And what we did is we developed an asset. I thought it'd also be interesting because Project Pat is on the Brilliant Directories website. So remember what I was saying earlier, you want to pay attention and say, what are they doing that I could be doing? So for example, even the way I deliver this lead asset to everybody on this webinar in itself is a lesson, because you also have a Brilliant Directories website. You can literally repeat how I deliver the lead asset, how I house the lead asset. I send it in an email. So I do give some of those tips along the way. But what I've done is I've compiled 8 of our success stories, and some of these are pretty large projects. A lot of them have tens of thousands of members in the databases, and I kind of give some insights in terms of what the highlights were with the projects, what the main purpose are of the websites, and you can kind of check them out as well and kind of learn from sites that have matured and gone through our brand story process with us to get them to where they are and have that succinct messaging that we're talking about. So hopefully, I know a lot of these are probably going to be new websites people haven't seen. They're not usually shared in the Facebook groups or anything like that, but I did think it was very topical for me to share that asset with everybody, so everybody can just head over there and download a copy if they're interested.
I shared a link in the chat for everyone. So if you go to projectpat.io, 8 successful BD sites, it'll take you to this page here. Now, is this a video, Pat, or is it a PDF file, like an
It's a
ebook?
PDF file. It's a
Okay.
PDF file that I am sending in an email link. Why do I not give it in the thank you screen? Because I don't want fake emails, right? And again, I'm sharing strategy. That's why I'm giving so much detail. But again, I'm giving a good lead asset. I don't want somebody to go in there and put gibberish. Now, if they do put gibberish, they can create a fake account on the directory. And sure, but there's nothing in there inside the dashboard. It just, the message in the dashboard lets them know that it was sent in their email. So if they did give a fake email,
They'll
then
come
you
back
really want that asset, they'll come back. So
and
that's
do
an
it the right way.
example, right, of a strategy to make sure that if they are getting an asset you put a lot of work into, that you're at least getting the contact information that you can then nurture them and teach them the type of services and products that you offer to see if you can acquire a new customers.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Pat. I just want to kind of review what we went over. Identify solutions for your members' need or want. So reach out, do surveys, talk to your inner circle, your inner network, and get that feedback if they would even be interested in your solution or what problems they're having that could lead you towards a solution to offer. Look at what other companies are doing, and rather than recreating the wheel, see if you can emulate their strategies and pick out the easy wins. Simplify your idea and your attack and your approach towards the project, and think outside the box. One of my favorite things to do is, how can you cut the fat? How can you remove stuff so you could get to a simple product and offering to give the project traction? Because once it has traction, then the wheels are in motion and things are moving, and that actually helps emotionally with your confidence towards the project and helps set you up for more wins, because when you edit a project down to its core components, you're actually hyper focusing on the most important things, which are those core components. So don't try to recreate the wheel, and see if you can emulate another successful strategy. And then, of course, Pat's been talking a lot about creating content that converts. People want things. People want to find things that improve their lives and businesses. So create assets that people want. And of course, we talked about that handshake, the exchange for the email address or a free subscriber sign up to your newsletter, or a free sign up to your site, or even a paid sign up to your site, whatever it may be. And then lastly, getting that early feedback. Look, we all have ideas. Sometimes they're not the greatest ideas. It's better we fail fast or we pivot quickly rather than, and I never heard that phrase before until today, Pat, the advanced asset. So getting that early feedback will keep you more nimble and allow you to tippy toe towards the right direction of where your project should end up heading in.